Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video, we're going to see if we can get the transmission mounted in the Datsun. Now, I was actually able to save the original transmission mount, and as you guys can see, it's in pretty good shape. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of rust on it, and the bushings are both still good. So the transmission's already bolted to the engine, but I need to mount the back of the transmission. And amazingly enough, this stock transmission mount actually bolts up perfectly to the TH400 that's in the car. If you guys are new to the channel, you might be surprised to hear that I'm not an expert on this stuff. But it's my understanding that the most important part of mounting the transmission is figuring out the angle of the transmission relative to the angle of the differential. So if this is the transmission and this is the diff, if the differential is angled up a little bit, you want the transmission to be angled down a little bit so that they're always parallel. Same as the inverse. If the diff was mounted angled down for some reason, you'd want the transmission angled up a little bit. Don't know if that's totally right, but that was my understanding based on Google. And that just helps prevent the drive shaft from having some weird vibrations and stuff like that. So let's start figuring out some angles. So I'm going to get a jack on the transmission tail here, jack that up, and we'll put an angle finder on the output shaft. But first I think I'm going to unbolt the drive shaft and figure out the angle of the diff down there. This ended up being incredibly frustrating. You could only get the end of a wrench onto these as the nuts were on the back side. There was no way to get a socket onto them. And you couldn't get enough leverage to break them loose. I'm really lucky I didn't strip any of them. I ended up doing some Googling and found out on a forum that people suggest putting the wrench on them, wedging it against the chassis, and then using a pry bar through the other end of the drive shaft to break the nuts loose.
And my hands are too greasy for the finger print unlock. Okay, I hope you guys can see what that says. Okay, that is 4.4 degrees.
Okay, that was absolutely exhausting. But we finally got the drive shaft out. We were able to check the angles on everything, and it looks like the diff is pointed up 4 degrees, and the transmission is angled down 6 degrees. So we just got to bring the trans up 2 degrees, and then we can mock up our mounts.
Okay, cool.
By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this video, it really helps the channel out if you like and subscribe. I got a lot more content coming on this car, and I've got a lot of cool other projects too if you haven't checked those out yet. I know in the last video I said that I was going to be putting the turbo in this car, and I had ordered the parts to do that before I even posted the last video, and they're still not here yet, so that's why things are a little out of order right now. I think now that the transmission is level, we'll start cutting some plates out of this metal here. The plan is that I'm going to make 2 plates. One's going to go on the inside of the car on the transmission tunnel, and the other's going to go on the transmission side, and I'll put some bolts through them, have some ears coming off that, and that's where the transmission crossmember will mount to. So let's get cutting. Well, I've got a bit of a headache now, not entirely sure why. But the plates are bolted onto the transmission tunnel, really happy with how that turned out, and now it's time to start making the ears. We'll start with some cardboard here. Okay, so I took that from cardboard templates to finished plates. I'm gonna mock these up under the car and try to tack weld them in place. I don't think it's gonna be easy. But we'll get them in place, and then we'll do the same on the other side, and then we'll check back in with you guys. Okay, as you guys can see, we've got our plates here. Those were very hard to weld. I could not get a good tack on these at all. They're pretty flimsy right now. And I would like to TIG weld these, so I'm going to put some better tacks on the clean areas, and once I'm confident that they're solid, I'm going to grind off my MIG welds and clean it up, and then we'll do a full TIG weld on these. Okay, everything is all welded up. Not the best welds I've ever done, but my entirety of TIG welding practice is all on this one piece of metal. This is all the TIG welding I've done in my life. So I'm okay with how these turned out. They're plenty strong. I'm gonna throw a quick coat of paint on these. And while those dry, we're gonna make some braces for these to help stiffen them up a little bit. So same as last time, start with cardboard, cut it out, clean it up, weld it.
There we go. One really cool thing that Datsun did for their crossmember bolts, which I think every company should do when you're putting it through a sleeve like this and you need to align holes on both sides, the tip of the bolt is pointed, so it should align itself way better. Let's see how it does. Actually, I just thought of one last thing I want to check. All right. Moment of truth. Okay, yeah, 5 degrees. Within 1 degree, or within half a degree, that's okay. I'll take it. Ow! I'll take it.
This was a really fun video. Everything turned out great. I love fabricating. And you know what? While we were filming, this box showed up. These are the parts we've been waiting on. So now the turbo is ready to go into the car. That's going to be our next video. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon.